It's great to have all of you here tonight. Thank you guys so much for coming and attending, and I'm really excited to go through tonight's presentation and take you a little bit through the broadcast life and how CSC games come to life on the radio on Double Q Country and our website and all of the content that we do. So again, thanks for coming in and being here as part of the Graves Lecture Series, and we'll go ahead and get started. As Daniel said, my name's Dave Collins, and I'm the sports director for Eagle Media in Chadron. Our company actually owns stations over several different states in Kansas, Missouri, and Nebraska, but our local markets are Chadron and Alliance. And so I work and live here in Chadron, and we have a studio downtown, which is where I do most of the stuff that you hear on the radio every day, or from my home office in town too. And most of you in here probably know me as the radio play-by-play voice of the Eagles as my primary job for Eagle Communications. And it sounds a little bit like this.
Bootleg out near side, throw to the end zone. Tommy's got it, that's your record! Touchdown, Chadron State! Tommy Thomas, 27-0 Eagles, and Tommy with his 27th touchdown catch in Chadron State history, your new all-time #1 touchdown receiver for the Eagles all-time. Wow, what a throw! Tommy in the back of the end zone knows where those feet need to go, and Chadron State totally blowing this one wide open, and Tommy Thomas working on a great day with his 3rd touchdown catch.
Boy, that was a lot of fun in Fort Lewis and Durango when Tommy made that catch. And so that's to give you an idea, just in a highlight clip there, what I do for a living essentially is call our games on the radio. How did I get to this point and get my career started? Well, I guess begin with the education piece. I went to the University of Colorado in Boulder, got a bachelor's degree in journalism with an emphasis in broadcast news, and I minored in history as well. And I grew up in Westminster, just outside of Denver, so I'm from Colorado originally. I took several college preparation courses that really helped me get into this career. A lot of people ask, how do you actually get into sportscasting? And we'll get into some of that during the talk tonight. But some of the courses including a radio play-by-play class. I took that with Larry Zimmer, who for many, many years was the voice of the Buffs, a guy who I grew up listening to and just loved his sound on the radio. He also did Denver Broncos games and was the sports director at KCNC TV in Denver for a long, long time. Ended up being an adjunct instructor at CU, and so I took a class with him, and that helped me realize that, hey, there is a pathway to make this job happen. It's not just a dream. I can actually try and do this. So that was great. I took TV broadcast production courses, both on air and behind the camera, newsroom classes, reporting, and a lot of things journalism related. Also, when I was in school, I worked at an internship, did a 6-month internship with KCNC TV in downtown Denver, and that was a really neat experience, even not going into TV ultimately after school. It was fun to be around those guys, learn from the sports anchors, and just sort of see how things are done in the world of sportscasting. But learning on your own is also a really big piece. And I've had a lot of ambition for this career for a long, long time. I remember as a kid laying on the couch watching, and I'm not a Duke basketball fan right now, I apologize to anybody that is. I'm a big North Carolina basketball fan, but I was watching a Duke game on the couch, and I can still remember the moment I had the epiphany, like, hey, how cool would it be to get paid to call sports for a living? And I still remember that day, and so I thought, well, how do you do that? From the simple point of it, you kind of call games on your own a little bit while you're watching them growing up and just sort of have fun with it. But in a real step that got me to my first job is the Rockies mini disc story. And I always love to tell this story because it's just an example of sort of taking something by the reins and making it happen. The summer after I graduated from college, I looking for jobs like anybody else is, want to get into that working world and excited to get working in sportscasting. Well, the Rockies weren't a very good baseball team in the summer of 2004. So I would go to Coors Field, sit in the upper deck, and with my Sony mini disc player, which have been long, pretty much out of existence, I see some smiles in the crowd and some laughs. I would take that and the official game notes that MLB would put out and the team would put out, and I would sit there and I would broadcast a game like I was the voice of the Rockies into my mini disc player from my very own section in the upper deck of the stadium, in the front row of the 3rd deck, to just practice and get reps and ultimately get tape that I could send out to try and get a job. And, in school at CU, I had a few opportunities to go and do some radio sports of CU Buff games, primarily basketball and volleyball. And so I had a little bit of that, but I needed more tape, and you need to show people what you can do. So I just went out, called Rockies games, and ended up turning that into my first job in Sydney, Nebraska, down south. So it's a kind of a fun story I like to tell about getting started. Professional broadcast experience. This is my 21st year in broadcasting. And as the radio voice of CSC Athletics, as Daniel said, 600, getting close to 700 games now. I've done 694 CSC live game broadcasts. That's football, volleyball, softball, men's basketball, women's basketball, all of that included. And I like to keep a count. When I first came up here, I decided to do that, and we're a few away from 700. So I'm excited about that. It's my 11th season this year in 2025, 2026. And I also host CSC shows and podcasts throughout the year as well. More kind of on how I got started. I told you the Rockies story. I moved to Sydney, Nebraska, and worked at KSID down south, about a couple of hours from Chadron here. And I did 10 plus years as a news director down there. I covered all kinds of different things. I did newscasts every day. I was the high school play-by-play voice for over 1,000 high school games down there. Bridgeport High School, Kimball, Banner County, Potter Dix, Creek Valley, Layton, you name it, from the Panhandle, these schools. I've done games that involve some of the other bigger schools as well, Scottsbluff, Gearing, Bayard, all these different schools. I've seen them all and called a ton of games. Just get reps, get as much practice as you can, call as many games as you can to try and get better and better. I was also an on-air DJ for a long time down there as well. We had a country station in Sydney, and we had a station that was kind of a mix of everything from hot hits to classic rock to at Christmas time, we just loaded up Christmas music and played that. So it was kind of fun to do the DJ thing a little bit as well. Earned a promotion adding sports director duties for many years too in that role. And one of the things I think I discovered, which was really interesting, and I'm glad that I took that job to get started, is that you can find things you're really good at that you may not expect that you're good at or may not even want to do. I became a news stringer for the Associated Press and was also a contributor for the Learfield, Nebraska radio network. So I would write and script and voice stories that would get played on the statewide radio channels all out of Sydney, Nebraska. So that was really neat to be on Omaha and Lincoln stations, breaking news that happened in western Nebraska. Hosted various news and community shows, did news and sports anchoring on the air, plenty of severe weather emergencies as well. Those were always pretty exhilarating. And at the time, this is when the internet was around, but social media was just kind of coming of age, in that 2004 and beyond era. And so our severe weather emergencies on air were a really big deal because a lot of people can't just go on and get that information quickly on their own. So tornado warnings and things, we'd hop on and people you knew were tuning in for that important information to what we had to say to help keep them safe when the severe weather was happening. So some pretty exhilarating days down there regarding severe weather. But overall, I've kind of done a little bit of everything in radio, and I took a leap of faith on myself to move from a big city of Denver to a small rural town in Sydney, Nebraska, 3 million to 8,000. And when you're coming out of college and you're in your 20s and you leave all your friends and everything behind, you really focus on your career and you do what you've got to do to get your start. And so I'm so happy that I made that decision and that I'm here to this day because of where I got started. So let's look a little bit deeper kind of from that point and how the career has sort of evolved from there. And take a look at behind the broadcast curtain, if you will. It's always interesting to sort of hear the misconceptions or the ideas of what people think goes into broadcasting or doing a game or how I do it or how I get it done. Really, it's mostly a solo act. It's kind of a one-man band when you're at my level in a smaller community where there's just not the same resources, a smaller company, Division II as opposed to Division I or the NFL or the NBA. So let's talk a little bit about those things. For a game day broadcast, it's kind of like, imagine a highly sophisticated watch. It's really sharp and shiny on the outside. That finished product looks really good, and you think, man, that's a beautiful watch. That's really nice. but there's all kinds of moving pieces and gears and stuff going on underneath that works together to make it look that good and to work that efficiently. So my responsibilities on game day are kind of like all those pieces underneath a watch. You know, what people hear on the radio is that finished product and that top of the watch. Underneath is all the stuff I'm doing to make that happen. The play-by-play announcing, like we heard in the highlight, color commentary. So in addition to just describing what I see for the listeners, I'll add a little context and a little bit of painting the picture, atmosphere to the game, moments in the game, the scenery, what it all means to the season, things like that. I'm also my own board op and sound engineer. The way that radio has evolved, a lot of stations still do have a board op where you say, hey, we'll be back in 60 seconds with CSC kickoff right after this. Somebody back at the station will play 60 seconds worth of commercials, and then it comes back to me. I handle all those commercials. I control every ounce of the broadcast from right there on the site. So I play the commercials. If something happens, I can play other things, or I can stop the broadcast, or I can stay live and talk for 3 straight hours if I wanted to. I could pull in songs and start playing Kenny Chesney if I felt like it. So it's kind of neat to have that full control, but it was something that I had to really learn to be able to handle in addition to doing the game as well, in part of the evolution of radio. If something goes wrong with the sound, with the equipment, I'm my own engineer, so I've got to figure it out and have a little know-how on equipment to battle through some problems that crop up. Fortunately, with the way that a lot of the technology and things work, and just having done this for 20 some years, I've been able to, and I can get through most problems that might come up. And that's good, that it isn't so much equipment that if something goes wrong, it's like it could be one of a million different things. We'll get into the equipment here in a few minutes, but that's what I've got, and so it's pretty easy to troubleshoot some of that in today's day and age. I'm also a sports reporter and a storyteller. Each and every broadcast, I'm reporting what's happening at the game site to our listeners and our fans, and telling the story of the season, the story of the players. We've got a lot of players in here, which is great. I love to see you guys every Saturday on the field and travel with you and have you here to come and watch the presentation tonight, and telling the story of what these guys do to our fans who look up to them and watch and adore what they do on the field in all of our sports is a big, big part of my job. So I like to see my job as creating a Division I or pro broadcast, NFL level, NBA level, whatever you want to call it. I aim for that level even without the manpower and the resources that broadcasters have at those levels. You've got, say, the Husker Sports Network. Those guys have a guy that does just stats. They have their own color commentator. They've got a play-by-play guy. They've got people down on the field getting interviews and content. They've got guys, researchers finding stuff during the game. So a lot of the preparation that I do and that I'll tell you about here soon happens before we get to the game site, so that I can have those elements without having some of those resources on Saturdays like bigger entities do. So let's get to game day. It is so much more than just a game on a day. And I like to put it that way because one of the big misconceptions is that Dave kind of shows up at the arena or shows up at Elliott Field, grab a roster on the way in, hang out with Sam Parker for a little while up in the booth, grab some pizza and put on a microphone and we do the game. And it's just so much more than that. There's a lot that goes into it. My mission on game day is this. It is to provide an accurate, compelling, and entertaining broadcast with a deep context and stories for the listener's entertainment and interests. So I know that's real kind of a lot of words and a big mission statement essentially, but that pretty much encompasses the entire thing of what I try to do. It's got to be accurate. I have to be credible. Whether we're having a good game or a bad game or a good season or a bad season, I have to be accurate about what is happening and have credibility with our listeners. Otherwise, people will tune out because they'll say, hey, this guy's not, he doesn't know what he's talking about, or he's too much of a homer, or he's, not giving the broadcast the truths that it has. I want it to be compelling. I want to give people a reason to listen. There's so much to do. There's so much sports on. There's so many other things to do in life that I want to have a broadcast that people feel like it was a good idea to spend my time listening to this game. It was entertaining. And then again, the context and the stories help build that and make it entertaining and hold interest. So broadcast preparation. This is a huge piece of what I do during the week leading up to a game. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. That's a quote most of you probably heard. It's a quote I love to kind of live by. So preparation is a huge thing, just like our men and women play sports, like teaching classes, leading the college, whatever you do in your career, you prepare to succeed. If you don't prepare, then there's going to be some problems. So you want to prepare to be as ready as you can be and to anticipate what may happen. So in the broadcaster's playbook, preparation, again, the most important and probably the most involved piece that I have. It involves three main things, really. A lot of research, interviews and talking with people, and plenty of organization. I'm so glad that my mom just drilled into me to be a very organized person, because if I wasn't, I'd be pretty lost in the broadcast world, especially with all of the different things that I like to get into a game. So organization is very important. Let's look at the research piece first. So beginning in the week, let's just say, we're in football season right now, so I'll kind of use that as an example. Mondays, Tuesdays, I really do a deep dive into both teams, Chadron State and whoever else we're playing in that particular week. First thing I do is go into the nuts and bolts. You want your meat and potatoes first, right? You want that main stuff on the plate, the rosters. I get the two deeps from the teams, so I have an idea of who's going to be in the game that I'm going to see a lot and who I need to get familiar with. For our guys, I know that pretty well, having been around the team for a decade now, and things, of course, change over the years. But you get used to our team and who to see and who's going to play a lot. So it's a lot more two deep wise on the opposing teams. And it sounds simple, but names and jersey numbers. I mean, one of my most important things to do is to let people know who's doing what, when, and where on the field or the court. And so I've got to know names and jersey numbers and pretty much have that all, at least the first 44 guys or so, 50 guys memorized for each year. So there's a lot of memorization that just naturally happens through preparation. I used to actually build note cards. When we were in elementary school, and you have note cards with math equation on one side and then the answer on the other or something like that. I would do that to get ready for games. My first few CSC games, I did note cards, took them on the bus with us to Missouri and practiced names and numbers that way, because college was such a step up from high school games in terms of the number of guys that you've got to know and what number they are. The game moves so fast, you have to know those things before you even show up. Statistics. This is obviously a huge piece of sports. So I will compile and organize all kinds of different statistics to get ready to help tell the story of the game and what's unfolding when we get to Saturday or whichever night it may be for whatever sport we're calling. In the statistics category, we have season cumulative, so what has happened over the course of the season, the number of yards or interceptions or kills in volleyball that players have over the season. I like to go in and find the last timeout or the last game. It's always of interest to a sports fan and a listener how a player or a team did the very last time they had a competition. So I make sure and get all of those things included. And I like to find the last time Chadron State versus our opponent. So that highlight we heard was against Fort Lewis. So on the spotting boards that I'll show you guys, I have information about, hey, last year against Fort Lewis, this player did this. Or, say it's Adams State CSC volleyball. Man, last year she had 12 kills in this match, and this is how we defeated Adams State, is because she had such a great game. And I can relay that information and put a little bit more context into the game for that night. So I love to go get the last time out stats, last time versus our opponent. RMAC rankings, it's always fun to see how we stack up against the other schools. So I go through all the main stats within the RMAC and see where we are compared to other schools, and that helps describe how things are going during the game, say third down percentages. We have great third down defense or, red zone or other things that show that we are one of the best, or maybe on the other side of it, and we're going against maybe one of the best defenses in red zone, and so we need to, this is a big point in the game to see if we can execute against, say, something that Adams State or CSU Pueblo does really well. National rankings, I like to find out where we rank nationally and relay that to the fans too, so I go and dig into the national stuff. Happy to say, right now, I just found out this week that our pass defense for CSC is the #1 pass defense in America, so well done, fellas. great job. That's something that I'm going to talk a lot about on Saturday at South Dakota Mines, I'm sure, because it'll be a huge part of the game, the fact that they will have a difficult time passing against us being number one in the country. So things like that are really fun to get as well. And then we go deeper into statistical trends, which will be part of the spotting boards talk as well. So once we've compiled everything, just continue to read and research the news about the teams, the players, the histories of the schools, the histories of the programs, all-time matchups between the teams and various seasons and things of that nature. One of the things I love to do is kind of towards the end of the preparation week and digging through the stats and the news is finding out some of the really kind of fun anecdotes and cool stuff that people may not be expecting or just might not know about with the teams. For instance, in basketball, we had a game, several games a few years ago with MSU Denver, and they had a women's basketball player who ended up being the daughter of former Michigan State star and NBA player Jason Richardson. And he was actually at the game that night. I wish I had had a chance to meet him, but he was a stud when I was in high school playing for Michigan State, and I remember watching him a lot, and his daughter played for Metro, so that was cool. Jalen Thomas from our men's team last year, before he came to Chadron State, played for former Kentucky coach Billy Gillespie. And people that know college basketball well know that Billy's been around a long time, and Kentucky's a major program, so it was really interesting to learn about that aspect with Jalen. And then Marshawn Lynch, if you don't know who he is, you've probably seen highlights of him playing for the Seahawks or the Bills and would know him if I showed you his picture. He is a Seahawks Super Bowl champion, and his younger brother, Devontae, was a running back at New Mexico Highlands for 2 years. And that was really cool to be able to tell fans about when we played New Mexico Highlands that season and weave that storyline into the broadcast. So I always enjoy finding those cool things in the research process. Next on the preparation side is the interviews with coaches, visiting with players. It's really cool. I get to travel with the teams when we go on road games, and I talk to a lot of these guys or gals on the volleyball team or softball when we had our MAC tournament, just getting to learn a little bit more about them and how their style of play works, so how their season's going. And maybe what they expect from the game coming up. So it's great to be able to have those relationships. I talk to other broadcasters, Steve, who does Black Hills State, or Jason Jorgensen, who does Kearney, or Scott, who does New Mexico Highlands. Whenever we all see each other the day of the game or in the week leading up to it, we'll just kind of, hey, how's the season going? This and that, and share a little bit of insights and things on how the season is and whatnot. Nothing that's going to be relayed on. There's a broadcaster trust there, but you just sort of get a vibe and a feel for how the season is and ask them what things have been like for their team and some of the certain players and stuff during the year. And then sports information personnel. We have Paxton Gordon, who's our SID right now, and he does a really nice job putting things together for CSC and helping me whenever I have a question or I ask for a stat or maybe an explanation about why something is the way it is with the teams or why maybe a player's not playing or whatever, just things like that. He'll really come through and help me out in finding some information and shedding light on what's going on with some of the teams and players. And the overall purpose is really to just accurately describe the game for people and to complement the live action. I want the game to be more than just me narrating what's happening because somebody can't be there or they want to know the score. I want to make it a story and make it entertaining. So we discover these things, create the storylines and the compelling content to put on the radio. I like to kind of live by the questions of, why is this game important and what in this game is important? What's on the line? What's at stake? Football's undefeated right now. We're in the mix for the playoffs and for the RMAC championship. And so there's going to be a lot of focus on when the last time those things happened for Chadron State and what we need to do to make those things happen. And, the men's basketball team's been to the playoffs 3 of the last 4 years. So we've had a lot of cool historical look backs into how we've built up to that point. And those things are fun to talk about during the games as well. And I also want to be able to anticipate and be ready for something that might happen during the game. For instance, the broken record we heard about with Tommy Thomas. Doing the preparation and the research, I was able to know when he would catch the touchdown that tied it and then the one that would broke it, so that bang, right there, I'm ready to have a great call that the fans love and will hopefully remember and feel like honored that moment in CSC history. and just really enjoy. And so I try to look for those type of things as well that may happen during the games as they come along. So now we get to the spotting board. And I brought a few that I'll pass around. You guys can take a look at them as I show you some pictures. Here's, let's see. There's the football one. Here's basketball. And this is kind of a team one that I put together. And I do these for all the games. This is where all that research and all that information goes. It's my main tool that's in front of me for calling games. So there's anything and everything I can find or you want to know about players, the teams, how the season's going. It's a compilation of several days of work, and the organization comes into these charts. And these charts are stuff I have in front of me. It's not something that you put out on Twitter or you put on the internet for fans to really see. Most of it probably wouldn't make a lot of sense the way some of it is written out. But my number one job is what's happening, who's doing it, and what's the time and score. And this is my supplementary tool that has information I can bring into the broadcast. So the football one's kind of going around, and this is one of the pages on it. And you'll see how the lineups, I'd mentioned two deeps, that's your starters and your second string. So I'll have the offensive line, for instance, for football up at the top. The yellow indicates the starters. Wide receivers and tight ends are here on the left. The quarterbacks, Ralph and Thompson and Sprague, they're in the middle behind the center. Our running backs down here in this quadrant with 5. And then our special teamers with our punter, kicker, and returners on the right side, as well as some other notes. In that top corner are notes from the last time the Eagles played. In this instance, it was against New Mexico Highlands, some pertinent stats for that game. The one next to it is the last year game against Fort Lewis College, where in this instance, we were perfect in the red zone, 5 out of 5, 100%. So I can, in this year's game, I can say, hey, last year we scored every time we had the ball inside the 20-yard line. So that was a big key into blowing these guys out last year in a big 55-13 win. If we can do that again, it ought to be a good day for the CSC offense. So just, again, more fun stuff to work in. There's a lot of handwritten stuff on these as well. As the week goes by, after I've printed them, I'll add notes. We learned that Quincy wasn't going to play in this game, so I just crossed out his number to indicate to me that he wasn't going to be playing. Tommy had all those touchdown catches, and so I just kind of handwrite those touchdowns on there so I can quickly reference that during the game. I have passing notes down here. And other various notes and trends from the season and historically that I might use during a game. A lot of the stuff on these sheets doesn't get said that exact game necessarily. There's a lot of carryover with things from week to week on these sheets. The stats change every week, and some of the updated notes and things do as well. But you make these charts as you learn about these things during the week. And it's kind of like, when they teach you, if you write something down, you remember it more than if you just listen and somebody tells it to you. Well, I am definitely the type of learner, a visual learner, as well as if I write something down or type it out and I see it, it helps me remember it. So if there's something on this chart that, it's not memorized, of course, but if, Garrett Schlabs catches a touchdown and I want to know how he did last week, or I want a quick reference, did he have one last week? Did he not? I can look at his box and it says LW: 2 for 32 yards. I know exactly what he did last week. Oh yeah, hey, Garrett didn't get into the end zone last week, but he had 2 catches for 32 yards. And I can have that note in the game. Or in his career, I've got career stats down along the bottom. For instance, Dax had an interception this year. I think it was his 9th in that particular game. But I knew that as soon as he picked it off, I knew that the color orange is career stats, and I knew exactly where Dax's box is on my spotting chart. So as soon as he picked that ball off and started running it during the call, I looked down at my defense quickly, saw his 8 career interceptions, and I knew that was his 9th, and I could, right as the play ended, I could say it's his 9th career interception. And it's like, wow, how do you know that? Well, it's a little note that's there. He may not have an interception up until 5 games before that, but when it happens, it's there, and it's ready for the call. So anticipation and preparation, again, go really together with these sheets. Here's a spotting board for softball from several years ago. very statistically heavy sport, of course, softball and baseball. So just put a lot of the team numbers together, comparisons, the individual gals on the team, what they've done, and notes like, for instance, with Mackenzie Kroll, she was one of our best power hitters that year. She had 4 hits in the NMH series, which means New Mexico Highlands, that she smacked 2 home runs versus Colorado Springs on March 8th in Game 2. Also a note that with 2 outs, she's got 4 hits in 21 at-bats. And the RISP with runners in scoring position on second or third base, she's hitting .455 and has 5 hits out of 11 at-bats. I also have all of her last year's stats on that bottom line, bottom right corner of the Mackenzie Kroll rectangle there too. So you just kind of fill these things up with the stuff you find that you think will be important and would be good during the broadcast or may come up during the broadcast. And this is just a little bit different look at how the softball one turns out. As we move next into equipment, this is, it's interesting because it has evolved so much over the years, how much equipment you use and what you use, and it keeps kind of whittling down to less and less stuff, which is awesome because I've got to haul all this stuff with me all over RMAC Creation we're on the bus in Colorado and everywhere we go, South Dakota. So I didn't bring my full Pelican case trunk and all my stuff with me, but I did bring the sound mixer board, and this is really the main piece that I use. It's my soundboard, my mixer board. I can get up to 4 microphones into this device to grab audio from. So I'm usually in headset 1. Headset 2 is Sam. If we're doing games at home, Sam Parker will be on this second headset so we can hear each other. We can hear the actual broadcast if we want to in here as well. And then this microphone will pick us up for what we're saying. I have a crowd mic that I take everywhere. I loop it up out of the press box for football and basketball games. I just have it on a small cord, set it there to pick up all the natural ambient sound around the gym. And then I have a guest mic here as well. It's typically a 3 mic setup or a 2 mic setup for most sports other than football, but there's so much going on in football, and we have a lot of guests in the post game, usually with football as well, or even halftime. We have people come in too. So I'll put that guest mic in, and then when Jay and some of the guys will come in, I'll hand them mic 4, and we can have 4 different audio channels coming in at one time, which is really, really cool. These buttons here, I actually don't even use now, but I could, and I want to as we develop things in our broadcasts. I could preload sound or sound bites or clips into these hot buttons, these hotkeys, and then as we're doing a game, I can hit the hotkey and it will play whatever is loaded into that. So I've experimented with it a little bit, but we haven't weaved that quite in yet. There's not a lot of time during a live sports game to get those things fully in, but it is something that for shows might be kind of fun, or we could at some point put into a game. But these are just audio sliders and channels. One of these controls the broadcast phone that I use to get the game on the air. And I'll get to that part in just that piece in just a quick second, but actually I'll do that first. The broadcast phone. This is my personal cell phone, but I have another cell phone that it's not even hooked up to a service anymore, but it's an internet portal really. So I hook it up to all my wireless devices that I bring to get all this equipment online and on the air so I can do the games. That go through our equipment and Alliance, the main hardware that's built into our station. And it's all connected through an app on the cell phone called Tieline. And so down at our main station in Alliance, there's some big major rack equipment that Tieline hooks into. I control it through the app and have that phone on with that audio channel device going during the game. That's how I know that I'm also on the air. And all of that is controlled by a laptop that I've got with me at the games too. So obviously the cell phone has its app, but the laptop is my mobile radio station. Like I said, I can control the whole game. I do it right off the laptop. I've got a screen that shows me what is actually on the screen at the radio station, and I can play those different commercials when they need to be played. I can play, again, songs, whatever I want during the game, and I can turn everything off so it's just me and the sound of the game when we need to be on the air for the broadcast. An iPad I take with me. It's my live stat monitor. One of the great things about doing college games, especially as opposed to high school, the challenge in high school games is you don't have live stats really in front of you. So it's difficult. the color commentator usually is writing things out on paper as you do the games. And it's great. I had some really good help with guys down south. Bob Hilpert and Greg Brenner, a couple of local guys in the school systems down there, were tremendous at helping me with stats, and great color commentators. And forever grateful for those guys to help me out. But in the RMAC, with every school is required in NCAA sports to do stats. So I have that iPad up, and I've got the live stats as the game happens. It helps me really explain what's going on in the game and tell the story of the game. And it's all wireless, internet connected. No phone lines anymore, no other crazy stuff that you used to have to haul around. It's all through the internet, which is very nice. Sometimes a little bit tough if the signal's bad. And in a couple of spots it can be, but for the most part, it's pretty solid. Here's a couple of pictures, kind of what the game day setup looks like. These are from this year on the football side of things on the road, actually. This one to the near side here is at Fort Lewis. So you can see in the middle there, I've got my spotting board, which has been getting passed around. There's another chart there with some team stuff and the RMAC scoreboard and the RMAC rankings. On the left, pair of binoculars, always have that for football. Things get a little far and a lot's going on, so you got the binocs up to get in close and see some of the action when you need them. The game phone I talked about is that black piece right there, sort of toward the left of the window. The laptop that controls everything is there on the right side. And then similar over there, you can see the view of what I see when I'm doing the broadcast of the games. That one from Colorado Mines on the right side. Those two, especially Colorado Mines, is probably one of my favorite places to do games, just from a broadcast working standpoint, I guess, is the best way to put it. You can really see the field well. It's a small press box, but I'm up high. I've got a great view of the action. Fort Lewis is a little bit lower, as you can see. It's kind of tough to see things on the near sideline and pick everything up because the home team is in the way. But every view is different, and we have a really cool conference with places to call games, both gym-wise for volleyball and basketball, and on the football side too. So it's a very, very fun and interesting way to see Colorado and see these different schools from the broadcast booth. Then after all this stuff is done, you got your equipment set up, you've got all your research, you've studied things, you're ready to go with your notes. You just simply go out and you call the game. You follow the action, describe the play-by-play. It's 1st and 10 on the 30-yard line. Aiden Thompson's in the shotgun. He's got Quincy Riker sidecar right, and then you describe the play that happens. Basketball, same thing. Whatever sport you're calling, you follow the action, you paint the picture, and then you give what's happening, the time, the score. People are working in their yard, they're traveling, they're tuning in and out of the game. It's not like TV where you're sitting in front of it and you're watching it for multiple hours and you've got the score bug right in front of you where you can always see the time and the score. So you really want to be repetitive with some of those simple nuts and bolts. It feels like, to say, time and score, that's so easy to say, but you've got to kind of constantly remind yourself, give the time and score, and just stick to the fundamentals and weave in the storylines when you have a chance to. As far as the post-game content, once the game wraps up, we have interviews and recaps live in the booth or at the table or courtside if it's an indoor game, where I'll go over all the statistics that happened in the game, talk about the game, how it unfolded, do some analysis there, just kind of my thoughts on what we saw, what it means to the season, highlight key players, things like that. We'll have head coaches come up, players come up, and we talk to them and get their perspective on how the game went, how they played, and just their reaction to how things went during the day. Always one of my favorite parts is the postgame, hearing from the coaches and especially the players too, to get fans inside of their thought process, their minds of how things went during the day. Fans love to hear that stuff. So whenever we get a chance to do that, I really enjoy it. And then everything kind of starts over. Sunday is really, I guess, my one sort of day off, I guess I consider it. I still work a little bit on Sundays, but I've got NFL Sunday ticket and I DVR a lot of college games, and I just try to chill on Sundays a little bit, take some rest and hang out, watch games. But then Sunday night, the process starts. Then Monday, you dive back in. And also during the week, in addition to the preparation I've been telling you guys about for each individual game, we do shows as well. So Jay Long and I have a show every Tuesday night. We tape it on Tuesdays during the day. Then I edit it, produce it, and get it ready for the air and for the podcast, where Jay and I will break down our game that just happened. We'll look ahead a little bit at the next game and just kind of talk about what's going on with the team. We also, over the the last 10 years up until this year, we had an additional show, the Chadron State Sports Journal. We're kind of redeveloping that show a little bit right now and hope to bring it back at some point soon. But we, in that show, go around to all kinds of different sports and players and athletes and just sort of take a look around the campus athletics from, whether it's track or wrestling or all these different sports. I'm trying to figure out a good way to move forward with that show as well and see if there's some new things we can do with it. But it's always fun to highlight some of those sports that don't get quite as much attention as, say, football or basketball in the grand scheme of things, too. So stay tuned. Hopefully that'll be coming back in the near future. But on Wednesdays, too, I put out a package called Eagle Cuts that is so much fun to put together. Each week after a football game and then at least one basketball game, I always go back and I listen to the broadcast. I can hit that record button on the soundboard and tape the game. So it's right there on the device. I'll download it into my computer in the office, and I go back and I listen to it, first and foremost, to critique myself. Did it sound good? What did I say too much? Did I call the game accurately? Did I use good terms? You want to continue to always be better. You're only as good as your last broadcast, really. So I want to stay at the top of my game, and I want to constantly make sure that I'm producing a good product. So I go back and I listen to it, take notes, try to improve in spots. But then I also enjoy hearing the good that comes out of it as well, and then getting the highlights put together for Eagle Cuts. And I use those highlights, too, for the promos that we have on air all year long about the games that we cover and games that are coming up. So I use those clips for many different things, but Eagle Cuts is the main social media piece to the broadcasting that we do this time of year. And I'll play a little segment of it for you.
Tanner and Ryder True take care of Folletti for a -2 tackle for loss back at the 49-yard line. Great job of the True brothers to tag team that tackle. Riker up the middle. He bursts through, breaks the tackle. 35, 25. He will not be caught. Touchdown, Quincy Riker. And Chadron State's got their first trip to the end zone this afternoon. We might be in for a Wild West shootout today. To the 15, he fumbles on the hit inside the 10. Chadron State's got it inside the 5. Urati came up with that fumble. Ryder True forced it, chasing down the ball carrier. Here comes Sutton.
Those are about 2 minutes and 20 seconds long because that's all Twitter will allow me or X will allow me to do. So I have to really chop things down. I can't always use I can't always use all the highlights I want to put in. Sometimes I'll do 2 of those in a week just because I'm like, I got to do a couple. I can't leave some out. But fans really enjoy those, and so that's something that we do each week as well. Getting towards the end here, just wanted to throw in some fun stuff too on the Would You Believe slide that I've actually called games from Miller Hall here on campus. Our son Braylon was due right during the first week of football season in 2023, believe it or not. Timed that out great, didn't we, Sean? So I couldn't travel to Illinois with the team. So because Braylon was coming, and of course I would never miss something like that in our lives, and so we had administration help me set up a room in Miller Hall where I could call the game through the Quincy University video stream. So I watched the video, set all my gear up in that room, and broadcast the game because I want to get this on. It's my job, and I want to do it so badly, too, that we made it happen in Miller Hall. I've called 2 games from Miller Hall. I called a game that was at Western Colorado there when they were redoing their football stadium, and there was no place to put me. So I had to figure out what I'm going to do. Got to get the game on the air. I've called games from the studio downtown. There's one school in particular that has terrible internet service inside the gym. I won't name it publicly here, but you might figure it out over the years when CSC's on the road and they don't have this basketball game on the air or not. That's the school. But I've watched the video to call basketball games from my studio downtown just out of necessity. That's happened a couple of times, and it's really difficult because you're relying on the video that is produced and put in front of you from people you can't control it. You can see through your own eyes. You can look where you need to look anywhere around a stadium to broadcast the game. So it's very difficult, but can be done. Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do to get the game on the air. But kind of an interesting note there. I called a game standing on a picnic table, and that was during COVID, actually, when the NCAA allowed our football team to have some scrimmages in the spring. We went down and played Greeley at UNC, and So I'm all set up with my spot. I've done all my preparation. I've talked to the athletics folks down there. They've got me at a spot to do the game. Well, about like 10 minutes before we're going to kick this scrimmage off, the UNC coaches were not pleased with where they had set me up, which was on a terrace level behind their bench. I guess they thought because I had a Chadron State shirt on, I was going to be stealing signals, or I was going to be, who knows? So they said, get this guy out of here. So we picked up my table, unplugged all my stuff. We ran across the practice field, set the picnic table down, got me maybe the longest extension cord I've ever seen in my life. It might have been 4 or 5 plugged into each other that ran back to the buildings on campus. I got on the air, but I am on the same level as our team. I can't see anything on the field broadcast-wise. So I said, well, I got to figure something out. So I crawled up on top of a table kind of like this with my spotting chart, and to play commercials, I'd bend down or get off the table and push the buttons, and it was one of the more difficult broadcasts I've ever done in my life, but we got it on the air, and it's a story that is kind of fun to tell now, but I was not a happy camper during that process and with how I was treated that day. But hey, we got the game on the air, and the fans enjoy that. So, and it's live sports, it's live radio. I've got to be able to roll with whatever happens. You never know what you're going to see in front of you at a game. There's been crazy half-hour injury delays. What do you do during that? The first night that Don Beebe Stadium, the brand new stadium, was open, we had a 2.5-hour lightning delay. A storm blew up right over the top of Chadron and sat there. And so we've got a stadium full of people. First night ever. It was a great test for, administration and game day personnel and what to do during a storm on opening night and having to evacuate stands. Sam Parker and I had about a 90-minute pregame show. Then we played country music for a while, and finally we got the game on the air, and I think it got over at around midnight. And happy to report we beat Black Hills 45-8, I think, that night. So it was a good night for CSC, kind of a wild night as well. But I've just, in my time, I've covered murder cases, been in the courtroom for those in the Southern Panhandle. I've interviewed state and Washington, D.C. politicians. I've been on the air for the severe weather stuff that I mentioned, where I'm explaining, hey, we've got a tornado warning in Cheyenne County and Sydney. Go to your basement, the normal routine stuff that you say during a severe weather emergency. And I'm turning around, looking out the window, and these storm clouds are just crazy and billowing around town, and you can see the top of this tornado moving along with the cloud outside of town as I'm telling people, get in your basement, and I'm here like watching it moving by, and I'll never forget that moment as well, doing severe weather from the studio that particular day. I've done a broadcast as far away as Puerto Rico. We had our men's basketball team do a tournament down in Puerto Rico, and some of the logistical challenges with that were interesting to navigate, but we got it on the air. It went well, and it was pretty cool to be that far away, bringing Chadron closer to their team. Building relationships and trust as an Eagle is such a huge part to my job and something so important to me. The reason I'm able to do this job to what I feel like is a successful level is because I've built relationships with our coaches, our admin, our players, the community. I want people to know that I am trustworthy. I consider myself a part of each and every team and this institution, and so I make sure that everybody knows that I am one of us. I'm not a news person out to get a gotcha moment or out to do anything negative for CSC. I want them to trust me with the information that they give to me to do a great broadcast and showcase the positives as well as the realities of if it's a good game or a bad game. I've got to be credible, but building those relationships is so rewarding, and it's been one of the best parts about my job as the voice of the Eagles, which I absolutely love each and every time. I'm so fortunate to be able to do these games. Each and every time I take the mic, I never take a game broadcast for granted. So I'm grateful for everybody that I get to work with. And that leads me into my final slide before we take some questions and things like that. Just thank yous and gratitude, and thank you to Alex Helmbrecht and Tina and Daniel for putting this on and inviting me to be a part of the Graves Lecture Series. It's been so much fun, and I always enjoy talking about my career and covering the Eagles, in whether it's on campus in a classroom or in a setting like this as well. So thank you guys, and then all of CSC coaches and players too, for your trust in me and bringing me along with the teams, and just having me be a part of everything that CSC athletics is. It means a lot to me, and it helps me really do my job. athletics department staff, IT staff, admin, everybody that's helped me along the way cover teams, and then our listeners and our broadcast supporters and advertisers too. There's a lot of people that go into allowing us to do this as well. On the advertising side too, of being a radio business, we need that support to be able to get games on the air, and so we certainly appreciate that. And to my family and my wife Shonda and our amazing son Braylon, it's interesting when you talk to coaches, they talk about the coach's wife, how hard it can be or a sacrifice it can be to be a coach's wife because there's so much road time and you're away from family. And I would say it's the same thing for a broadcaster's wife. So to Shonda, just everything that you've done to support me, to allow me to put this much and everything I can into this job, thank you so much. Those long weekends where it's just you and Bray, I know could probably be a little tough, but I appreciate everything you do for me as well. So thank you. And I know I've been talking for a lot of the time tonight. We do have some time. I'd love to take questions. I love answering any questions that you guys may have regarding broadcasting or anything that you'd like. So fire away if you've got anything. Yeah, Sutton.
Do you have a favorite call anytime broadcasting, whether it's high school or college, or maybe a favorite like cut up or whatever?
You know, I don't think there's one actual call, but certainly some favorite games. Just recently our win over Colorado Mines for football was one of the most satisfying broadcast game days I've had. That was such a great day for the team and for our program, and it was so much fun. Our men's basketball team did an exhibition game at Nebraska in Pinnacle Bank Arena several years ago, and that was really cool to do a game in a D1 arena against the Huskers, obviously a huge team. So that was really neat. And then softball at the RMAC tournament, we made a third place run one year down there and beat some really good teams and had a fine squad on our side too that just pitched well, hit well, everything came together. Those are some of my, I guess, favorite moments that just off the top of my head. Yeah. Yeah.
You talked about some of the logistical challenges of where you've been, but have you ever been like sick or ill and had to power through that? Because the voice is obviously very important.
Great question. Yeah. Yes, there was one softball RMAC tournament. I think I was in bed at the hotel. We got there and I jumped in bed at like 6:30 with a really bad head thing going on, and went to bed, woke up and felt a lot better the next day. But mostly when I did high school games, there were a few where, man, I just did not feel good. You got the head cold, the annual crud kind of going through you, and you battle through it. I, for a long time, had never missed a game because of illness, and I can't remember what it was. I caught the stomach flu once, and I missed a game. But for the most part, I've been pretty lucky in that department, honestly. Let's hope it stays that way. Did you have one, Jim?
Well, I was just kind of related. Like, do you do anything special to like take care of your voice? Like, as a musician, there's a lot of things. I know singing. What do you gargle with salt water? Do you drink a lot of water?
I drink a lot of. I do try to drink. Well, I try to drink 100 ounces of water a day. That's a lot, and I don't succeed as much as I used to, and got to be careful when you're traveling too on the road. Those days I can't get it done that day when we're heading on a long bus trip. But yeah, I do try to drink a lot of water, especially in the winter basketball season. I carry around a big bag of Hall's cough drops, and then there's a kind of a spray too that you can fire into the back of your throat that sort of numbs the back of your throat if it gets scratchy or you're having some things go on there, and that helps too. But no big secret, I guess. Honey and hot tea sometimes works pretty good as well. Yeah.
Have you ever got so excited on a call that you like screamed or yelled?
Or had my voice crack and
Yeah, or you lose. Yeah.
Definitely when I was first getting started calling games and the big moments. I remember there was a punt block at a Creek Valley High School game. I think it was my first punt block ever, and I'm too scared to go back and listen to it because I went pretty high and I don't think it came out that well. But you kind of naturally just sort of develop your cadence and tone as you go, and so nothing as bad happens. But sometimes things surprise you and big plays happen, and you get pretty stoked on the mic. And so I have had somewhere I'm like, man, I wish I didn't get quite so physically amped up, but yeah. Yeah, Liam.
Obviously, you started in 2004. How has like social media, like this new age, technology helped you get new challenges?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's more, I would say, in not challenges necessarily, but it's actually made it a little bit more fun in the sense that it's neat to do on the radio, but to do Eagle cuts and then the video that I do before games, the broadcast previews, being able to throw those things in as well, it just kind of complements the radio broadcast, I would say. So it's fun to have those other elements that go into the broadcast in addition to just having radio. When it was only radio and then it was done, now I can sort of re-showcase and re-highlight stuff that if someone can't sit there and listen to it the second it hits the air, there's still a way for them to get that content and be able to enjoy what you guys are doing on the field. So, yeah, good question.
You keep
Yep.
a blooper reel when you're looking back at all the things you do.
Blooper reel?
Have you seen the mistakes?
I don't keep a blooper reel. I don't know if other people have a secret blooper reel anywhere, but typically, yeah, I get pretty embarrassed if I have a really bad blooper. So I don't save that in my highlights file. It's kind of on the long game broadcast and hopefully forgotten to time. But if you dig deep enough, there's probably one or two in there somewhere that still exists. But no, I don't have one, so I can't get you one, Kurt.
So, I mean, kind of thinking back to what was asked about technology, I assume that from moving from over-the-air broadcast to like streaming, do you track like where people are listening from? Do you have, or do you know, are there people who listen like from overseas or from different other places like that? Where are some of those places?
Yeah. So the question regarding if we can track where people are listening from, that is one of the benefits. You mentioned social media, but with the rise of internet and Google Analytics and those things, yes, we can see in generalities where people listen. One of them that sticks out was in my time doing some high school games, we had some fans who must have been family from Japan, but would always be tuning in. So we had people from Japan listening to the games. In the summers, I can sometimes dig into some of that more. It's hard to find the time to do it now, but I want to actually, I'm glad you brought that up because I want to go in and get some more of that and learn more of where outside the general area people tune in. But it's neat because we have players from all over the country and even the world in sports at CSC, obviously. So it is a worldwide broadcast. It really is. Radio here locally, but then everything is streamed on the radio broadcast, simulcast online. So it does hit the entire globe, which is pretty cool. All right. Thank you guys so much for coming tonight. It was awesome.